Hello, I'm Jacqueline Holstead, and you are listening to On Point Conversations. In this podcast series, we share creative marketing, content, and branding strategies that help your business successfully navigate the new normal marketing environment. Today in my podcast, I'm going to readdress some of the ideas and things that I did with my clients and new clients during the COVID lockdown. So I, along with I think other people, assumed by this point we would have further vaccinations, we'd be ready, able to go out. And in the state of Washington, we're still wearing masks, which is fine. So the uptick in COVID infections reminds me very much that our businesses need to keep in step and actually ahead of steps in order to stay ahead of the COVID restrictions if they come again, and also to be able to weather this particular pandemic. And also any other pandemics that might come down the line later on. So while we hear a lot about a lockdown being probably unlikely, it certainly isn't out of the question, out of the range of possibilities that a business might do or that a government might take. So I think we just as businesses need to get back on our feet and continue the good things that we learned and did during the COVID shutdown and continue to do more things that enhance our businesses in order to be able to weather any storms with our businesses. Because until this disease, whatever, is truly contained, we need to be prepared for things that might happen, those changes, those blips, the types of things that we need to be careful of in order to keep our businesses going. When the pandemic originally started, there were things I did with new clients particularly, and then my clients that I had, we've already done many of these things, but we did a great degree of looking at what we control, what's in the control of the business. If there was a lot of outsourcing going on, can some of that be brought back into the business? Or keeping very good track of what you're outsourcing. So even if you're outsourcing things like your accounting, that you're looking carefully at what the accounting reports say, that you're spending time talking to your accountant about what's happening with your business, and getting feedback from those around you that are doing different activities for your business. We also talked about cost cutting. So what can you do at that time to cut costs that maybe, because prior to that we were pretty fat. There were a lot of things happening that didn't seem to affect the bottom line as much, or if it did, it wasn't that great. So cost cutting measures came into place. There were things that, like loans and some of the grant money that came about that was also good for businesses to take advantage of. As far as, because I'm in the communications and marketing and content area, I worked hard on creating communications plans for those companies' customers. So putting the email list front and center, doing more possibly in social media, doing more to engage with the customer, doing more to get the word out, particularly when I was working with smaller like restaurants or I worked with a bubble tea shop. We did more communications with customers in the area so they knew when the shop was open, when it was available to do pickup, how they could do online ordering, where they might do online ordering, all those things that you might take it for advantage of, and then your customer might not realize what you're doing. So there was a lot of work in that area. And also a lot of work in taking businesses online. So there were some clients who had older websites that were not up to date. There was some older branding, maybe things that could be changed. So we worked hard during that period of time to get people up on newer websites, newer platforms. Looking at security is a big one. I noticed during the start of the pandemic, there were a number of websites that were unsecured and still selling things online. So they had just started. So, and that's pretty much an SSL certificate. So it's not expensive, but it is something that you really do need to have. Now that we're looking at the possibility, COVID infections remind us that it's back, it's not over, and we're going to have to live with it for a while. So while it's been really said in the media and all over that a total shutdown is unlikely, we can't just rest on those particular reports because we don't know what the future holds. So as we get into the fall, you have colder weather, more people inside, people are more fearful of going out and visiting different places. So until this disease is truly contained, business owners have to be prepared for the possibility that there could be more restrictions or some of those restrictions back, and that customers themselves will scale back on things like eating out, travel, recreation, or the other spending plans that they had in mind. So once again, we're going back to looking at how do we keep our businesses moving and what do we do? So the first thing again is streamline your operations to cut costs. And during the period of time when economy was really booming, businesses got a lot, I said, fat and happy and not lean and mean. So we moved it to more lean and mean during the beginning. And I think COVID fears even now, and as unemployment benefits possibly go away, we see more ways that we'll need to streamline operations to cut costs. So consider adjusting maybe your hours so you don't stay open and incur labor costs during slower periods. And this requires looking and analyzing what is your business doing? When is your business doing the best? When is it doing the least? You might even want to look at how do you scale back on certain suppliers that are more expensive than others. I do recommend that you take your supply chain and make sure that it's more than one supplier. So you have a very balanced supply chain, because the last time we saw this happen where suppliers all of a sudden couldn't produce what they needed to produce, and so people and companies were held back because of that. So looking at, can you take and level out your suppliers and have it in different areas so that if one lags behind, another is able to pick up. Now, we know that restaurateurs took the most hit kind of in this. So they would do things like they built the takeout and delivery segments of their business, which was really good. They did a lot of investing in online ordering. They promoted their menu offerings through digital marketing efforts and social media. And they took care of their takeout customers. It's definitely less labor intensive when you don't have them come in your store. So they had things ready in line. I recall Mod Pizza having a great way to just order online, put everything online, and then pick it up at a certain time when it was ready. So those are all things that we did and companies did to protect themselves during the initial COVID pandemic. Now it's a good idea to continue to look at other ways. Are there other cost-cutting methods? The other thing that I've been doing with my clients, and something to think about, and I do it also in my business, is save what you can. Your margins might be small, but if you can save money so you can actually have something for that rainy day, that is really a help. And you'll see, I've seen this with nonprofits anyway too, where they're starting to put together more plans for having money in the bank or in trust funds or in funds that allow them to weather this kind of pandemic so they're not living day by day. That's a very good business message for businesses too. So it's kind of old-fashioned, saving money for a rainy day, but it's also pretty smart because we don't know how long the PPP loans will be available or if they're even available for your business. Grants, we don't know how long those will be available and what we're doing. The last part I want to talk about is increase cybersecurity. So we have employees working remotely, we have all kinds of things, and we're very vulnerable to security. I think it makes sense at this point to have companies look into what all the security measures that they have in place and what additional ones can they put in place, and doing research on who is the best company to help with that. Where is the best resource? And how do we keep our employees and our customers' information safe from being hacked? You probably heard of T-Mobile, and that's a big company. They were hacked, and about 1 million customers' information was released and sent out into the big bad world, including Social Security numbers. They apologize, but apologizing and trying to clean up the mess afterwards is a very difficult one. And sometimes, the company can do everything they can do and they still get hacked. But I would really suggest that as small companies, large companies, that this security becomes a very big forefront, especially since we've got so many things now online, people paying online, people ordering online, people doing things online. And when your people are working remotely, you want to be sure too that you look at what they're using for their security. It's because they're a remote employee, but what are they doing to keep your company and your customers' data information safe? And last but certainly not least is changing customer behavior. We want to really be watching what the customer is doing during this period of time, because they're listening to the media reports we're listening to also, and they may be getting to a point where they're more cautious in the particular, I think, of the travel and eating out and some of the types of things that they've done in the past. So we really want to learn as businesses how to adapt to that changing customer behavior, how to watch it, how to see it, how to learn from it. We want to be smart with our money, definitely being as careful as possible and saving as much as possible, and taking some of that money and investing it in efforts to prevent cyber theft, to protect the assets, your assets, as well as your customer information, as well as your reputation, as far as keeping customers safe. I hope that helps you. If you would like to get more information, or you have a question for me, or you want to talk to me further, I can be reached at my contact page at onpointthinking.com. I look at those, I read those. I very much appreciate people who take the time, even if you want to just review this particular podcast and give me other ideas of what your company did or is doing to keep themselves safe. It's very important. And one of the times, the next podcast, I'm going to talk about more about that whole creating a communication plan for your customers, because there's so many ways that can be done, and there's so many different channels you can use. And you can get also put in the weeds with it, where you can be looking at all the different email programs and all the different things that can be done. And it's important to focus on one, learn that really well, and then use it, because the more you use it, the more adept you get at using it. So I appreciate you listening, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks, and have a great day. Thank you for listening, and I invite you to join me next week as we talk more about specific actions you can take to reach your own business goals. You can find my library of other inspiring podcasts like this one at onpointthinking.com. Again, thank you for listening. This is Jacqueline Holstead at On Point Conversations.